Hello, everybody. Greetings. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Breaking Bread Village. And this is just a safe space for us to just kind of talk, break bread and just have that conversation. So I want to just kind of get right to it. Today, we're going to talk about wellness for moms and birth work and why it's so important for not only mom to be healthy and well, but also her support team because it impacts her and baby. But I'm going to stop talking and rambling because I want to bring our guests on because I'm so excited to have this conversation for these two ladies. So let me go ahead and bring on. Hey, Miss Brittany, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. I'm just so excited. Okay, let me bring on Sister Calvis.
Hi,
Hello.
everybody.
All right. Well, welcome. And I really want to just say thank you guys again for being on. I'm really excited about this conversation. I think it's so important. This is something that has been I guess the conversation has been so big because people have so many different ideas on what's right and what's wrong, especially for African American women. I mean, it's definitely, something that we need to talk about. So that's why I thought on having you guys on. I mean, I know that you guys have, a big platform and people really look to you for advice. And I know you guys may not realize it, but, people really do look for that. And I really just wanted to kind of allow you guys to have a little space here today. And so I can ask some questions because I do have some questions and I want some people to hear them and the answers, because a lot of people have submitted questions to me in regards to, some healthy ways to go about, in your pregnancy and some different things they can do. So we're just going to go ahead and have the conversation today. So again, yeah. I'm so excited. So I really want to just kind of get started with asking you guys, what drew you, what called you? And I say those words in particular because I believe in this work, you have to be called. This is not for the faint of heart. This is something that you are totally. I know the first time I did, I worked with the mom and I was at the hospital. And, even being there all day, I've had children, but I guess I didn't realize how much work goes into that, even being there as a support person, that whole time. And then, even aftercare. So anyway, I want to talk to you guys about what drew you into it, what called you guys into it. So Brittany, if you want to start, you can.
Sure. What called me? I think it was after my third child. I have 4 children, and I realized I was actually doing the work. And someone actually came out of nowhere, was like, "Are you a doula, or have you ever thought about being a doula?" And I said, "I don't know what that is. I just do this.
Okay.
Black women need this education, and I have it, so I'm going to give it to them." And a lot of what I had to offer was just off of pure experience and research on my own end. And so I said, I don't know anything about being a doula, so I started researching it on my own. I said, you know what? I think we need more black doulas in all neighborhoods, in all communities. So I said, well, I'll look into it. I don't know if I want to do this as a profession because I was in school for something totally different at the time. And I said,
Okay.
Yeah, I was, you know what? I was actually in school to become a police officer.
Wow, that's deep. Okay, I would have never. That's so deep to me. Okay, I'm glad you shared that. That's awesome. Wow, that's such a different.
Yeah. So let me tell you. Listen. Okay, let me break it down and explain it. So
No, please do. Let me grab my tea. Hold on.
Just please explain.
So
Let me get my kombucha. Hold on.
I know. Look, she said. So I actually majored in sociology with a sociology. I loved all things about understanding people's motivations to commit certain crimes, and that interests me, and I still am very interested in it, but just not in a way of actively being out on the field. I use that knowledge in a different way. I think it was a really great foundation for me to understand my own people and what motivates them. So things like poverty and biases and all of those things come out. So I use it in a different way, just not in a formal way. So I started off in the criminal justice. And then I kind of dipped and dabbled in nursing for a little bit. And then I was like, no, I'm going to do business. So then I started business, and then here we are where I am. So at the time, I was kind of in between, and I was like, I don't think I want to do this doula thing because I'm just going to be wasting all of my formal education. And I did some soul searching, and I just started doing the work, and I started seeing how Black women would come back to me, or just women in general come back to me and say, Brittany, thank you for all of that information you shared for me. It actually helped me in the situation. And that's when I say, you know what, I think that I'm being called to do. I'm going to put my formal education to the side. I'm sure I can use it some other kind of way, but this is what I'm supposed to do on a daily basis. So that's
Wow. This is why I love having conversations, because you find out so much about people. That's really interesting. And I love how you said you can still use that knowledge when it came to your, I mean, that it helps a lot for sure. Wow. Okay, Cameron, go ahead and tell me what were you original? Go ahead.
So my, what pushed me to become a birth worker was really the information, the first set of statistics that the CDC had published back in 2017. And that's where we really saw the breakdown of the maternal mortality rate of Black women, and how the mortality rate of Black women due to pregnancy complications was the same across all economic classes and education levels of Black women. And then it was, Black women were dying 3 times as many times as white women. And then, I mean, it was just like all this stuff during that first batch of research that the CDC published back in 2017. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, is this really, like, what are we doing? We have Black women dying at the same rate as women in third world countries, and we're an industrialized nation. So what is this coming from? And so I had already been a practicing herbalist for about 5 or 6 years, and so I came into birth work with that herbalist, with the herbalist training, and being a natural health practitioner. And I also had a hair, I still have a hair care company. And so I came into it with all, from that perspective, but it was really the first set of research from the CDC. And it was so eye-opening, for the United States to be next to last of all the industrial nations for mortality rate in general. And then when we broke it down into, what's happening with Black women, and like Brittany said, with the bias that's going on in the medical establishment. And so that's really what drew me to birth work. I had been saying, I would like to be a doula, then I would leave it alone. And then and then it was just something like, no, you really need to go ahead and do this. And so, so I went for formal training. I'm trained as a labor doula, but my passion is actually postpartum. So that story of how I got into postpartum work was last year during the full moon of 2019. I'm doing my birth, and I'm scheduling. You schedule your birth as best as you can. Well, I said, well, this mom she's going into labor the first week of February, and then this mom is going to go into labor the last week of February. So of course I can book 2 women for the month of February 2019. I can do that. And lo and behold, both of them, praise God, went into labor during the full moon of 2019, February 2019. They both went into labor. Well, the one young lady, she ended up having a vaginal birth. So I was up a total of about, I think it was like 32 hours straight between both women. And so the first young lady, she had her baby vaginal. As soon as that baby latched on, I was gone. I was on my way to the second birth. Well, the second birth, that young lady ended up having a C-section. And so an emergency C-section. And so and she was in distress, but that's another conversation when we come back to C-section. But the C-section conversation. But what I will say is, I was like, well, I'm still going to stay here, even though I didn't get to labor with you, because it was like, she called me, hey, I'm in labor. And then it was, hey, they're rushing me to, enter emergency C-section by the time I got there. So I stayed there until she got in the room. Post-op, the baby did latch with the mom who delivered via C-section. But I said, you done paid me these coins, and I'm not giving them back, but I still want to be a service. You feel me? So, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, no, we would never think that." I'm like, "No, but I just want to make sure we're going over the top. I mean, this is a joyous occasion, but so what we're gonna do is these
right. We gonna reform this. Yeah.
yeah. I said, so let me come to the house and do some postpartum support for you. And so I did that. And it was one of the best experiences. And I said, you know what? I'm supposed to be a postpartum doula. Well,
Right.
Because it wasn't just me cooking for her or doing laundry, but we had meditation time, we had prayer time together, and I was able to anoint her with oils, Mother Rose oils and things like that. So that's what thank you, Brittany. I love you too. So I got to do those things, and I said, you know what, this is what this is really what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I enjoy labor.
Oh yeah.
I enjoy the labor support, but it was like not to get too deep, but it was like an anointing, like I could feel the Holy Spirit when I was supporting her in that way. So I knew, I said,
Right.
okay, I need to do this postpartum thing. This is really, really what I meant to do. So that's how I got into postpartum, and then I was like, well, maybe I need to go back and get trained for postpartum work. So of course I went back to the credentialing about it. I had got my labor doula support, the labor support, and I seen them that price tag. I say, no, ma'am, not today. So I said, no, that we're not going to go that route. We're going to go a different route for postpartum training. So I've gone through some, some culturally relevant training and things like that, and and I have my own ideas about credentialing for postpartum that perhaps we'll be able to talk about a little bit later. But yeah, so that's how I got into birthright. That's how I got into birthright.
And with both of your stories, it shows the calling. I mean, it literally tugged at you. It literally called for you. And I think it's some careers or what have you that you do that I feel you're drawn to it. I don't think anybody can just be a teacher or should not be, anybody just should not be, even the paras, it's just certain things I feel like should call you to it and should just tug at your heartstrings, something in your spirit, as you said, that just kind of says, what, this is for me, and that connection. And since we can go ahead, because I'm going to rearrange these questions, because since we're on postpartum, I really do want to talk about why that's so important. People don't understand, I think about, I saw a diagram one time, or like this picture, and it showed all the people that were around, in the hospital with mom, and before she went into labor, or at home, wherever they are. And, even during labor, they have 1,000 people come in sometimes and want to see it, and it's cool. And then they showed when mom was at home, at first people come around and they, he's so cute, she's so cute. And then a week or so after, she's alone, right? And this could be first time mom, or like me, I had all my children, I had all of them stair steps, right? So I have all these little kids, and Brittany, I know yours are the same way. And, people say, oh, well, you've already had a child. So, each one of my labors were different, everything was different. And I just remember being home and, you're trying to manage, taking care of a household, taking care of all these children, and also attend to this new baby, and also attend to yourself, right? It's so many changes within our bodies that we go through as well. So what do you, Brittany, feel about like postpartum? And then Calvin, I'm gonna get back to you about postpartum. What do you feel about it, Brittany? Like, why do you think it's so important for us to still be there for mom?
Absolutely. It's super important. And oftentimes moms just need the reassurance that they're doing everything okay. And even when they're not doing things okay, if things aren't working well, such as breastfeeding, maybe they're exhausted or they don't have a secure latch, they need to be redirected in a gentle way at that, if they want to continue on. So I focus a lot on breastfeeding and that support, and just encouraging them and letting them know that everything is going fine, and that the hurdles that they are crossing right now are totally normal, and they're not alone. Oftentimes postpartum period, we're going through these cycles that are completely normal. But when a woman is alone, she's thinking, I am doing something wrong. I need to just give up. I'm tired. Somebody else can come get this baby. And then all these thoughts come up in their head. And these thoughts come up in their head and they start doubting themselves. And they're like, well, can I do this? This is my third baby. Was this the wrong, choice? Or and it's all normal stuff that they're going through. It's just that when you're going through things alone, it magnifies its impact.
Yes.
Another thing about postpartum too, about the healing aspect of it, is the way in which you heal has a lot to say about your future health and wellness. And so if you take care of yourself in that most vulnerable moment of healing, like that is, what other situation where you would need that type of healing? Other than things like surgeries or an accident or something like that. That's the one thing that is coming. You can prepare for it, and you need to heal properly from it. It's a very traumatic event that's going on inside of the body in that healing process. And so if you don't heal properly, you have women later down the line who are having all types of issues, blood pressure, glucose issues. They can't lose weight. Maybe they're having blurry vision, or their back is aching really bad, or they're bleeding super heavy and passing these huge clots even after 6 weeks. It's because they can't heal. They're overdoing it because their mind is moving. It's not because they have a lot of stuff to do, because let's be honest, who is really choosing laundry over resting? Who's really choosing rest over resting? All women would choose resting, but sometimes they just can't mentally wrap their head around the fact that resting is okay, and you don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. We tell ourselves that is so true. Right. We criticize ourselves for resting. Yep, that's true.
Yeah, just rest. And listen, for those who have a tendency of being a busybody, because I know that I was, and I couldn't just sit still, is listening to your body and know how much you can do, and when you are stretching yourself too thin. Like I would tell myself when I was in my postpartum period, I would say, okay, Brittany, you have 1 hour to get done whatever you need to get done, and then you need to bring your butt back to the bed. And but for the first few days, I allowed others to cater to me like I cater to others 365. Can I get one?
Right.
You bring my teas and my tinctures and my food to me. I'm going to allow that. When women are alone, they don't have those options. And so, me and Calvis and other women all around the world who are trying to bridge this gap and help those that's in their postpartum period, we can't be there all the time. But what we can do is not come empty-handed. If we come, we're bringing herbs, we're bringing whatever we can. We're bringing ourselves. If you just want to talk and talk through some of your birth trauma or some of your birth success, let's do that. Let's show up so at least we can be used in whatever way they need us.
Right. No, I appreciate everything you said. And Calvis, I want you to speak on that too. But I want to say something real quick. Even in addition to that, about everybody else, we also at that moment are going through our own self-identity issues, right? I mean, your body looks different. It feels different. You're weighing through all of that. So on top of having to be there for a family or, and if you're married, a husband, still sometimes, even if you just literally brought a life out of you, the husbands still are like, well, what's for dinner? It happens to women, so when you're trying to balance all of that on top of looking in the mirror and saying, oh man, I look so different. My body is different. How do it's just so much. So that support, like you said, just being there is sometimes everything for them. So I agree with that. Calvis, what did you want to add for that?
I just, back in 2000, the first set of mortality, maternal mortality rates were published by the CDC in 2017. And so in 2019, they released, actually it was May of 2019, they released an additional set of data. And this time it broke down where those deaths were disaggregated across, the chart. And so it was literally 1/3 of pregnancy-related deaths occurred during prenatal up to birth. And then 1/3 occurred from birth to up to a week postpartum. And then 1/3 of all pregnancy related deaths occurred plus 1 week postpartum up to a year later. Now,
Mm,
if we look at that, we're talking about up until a year later, the CDC is saying these are pregnancy related deaths. But when we look at the traditional modality of treatment of postpartum, what is it? It's the one postpartum visit at 6 weeks, and then the doctor says, "Hey, you're better.
right,
You're no longer a birthing person. You're regular. You're normal." And
right,
so, but we have that 6 weeks, but the CDC is saying no, 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 no.
right,
These women need to be monitored up until a whole year afterward. And then what they were saying also, close to 60% of those deaths that occurred, if those women that were having those types of postpartum complications, if they were treated as pregnant women with those complications instead of,
mm,
oh, this is just somebody with a heart who has blood pressure, but it
right.
should have been treated as a pregnant woman, still a pregnant woman with blood pressure uh, complications. That a lot of the 60% of those deaths could have been prevented.
And you're saying in the postpartum
In
after a
the
week
postpartum, yes.
up to a
In the
year. Wow. Okay.
yes, in the postpartum, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is right there in the data. So now you have the American Medical Association saying, well, let's stretch this 6 week period. Let's stretch it to 12 weeks. Let's stretch it to 12 weeks. But that's still that's still short of the whole
Right.
year postpartum.
Right.
So that's where um, postpartum doulas, that postpartum support is so very important, because
Right.
it seems like even in my local community, since I've been a doula, 3 or 4 women have passed away
Mm.
within 2 to 3 weeks of having a baby
Oh
because
wow.
of a heart issue, or they bled out, or and it's just like, if these women would have had somebody else there with them,
Right.
to say, "Hey, girl, you don't look right. Let's go to the
Mhm.
doctor."
Mm-hmm.
These are things that could have been prevented. But
Wow.
it's just so very important, particularly with C-section women, because that is my specialty. Postpartum, I specialize with C-section moms. It's just so important because of the extra
Mhm.
health concerns that that compound.
Mhm.
You're already trying to recover from somebody who's vaginal, but now we have this person who has had major abdominal surgery, and
So
for whatever
yes.
reason, this is not explained to people when they have a C-section. The little bikini closure that's afterwards, honey. No, they're
Right.
they're they're cutting through your abdomen,
Yes.
Right.
and they're loosening your core. That's not
Right.
explained to people. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
all of that, you really have to be supportive of all postpartum bodies, but especially those women who are going through C-sections.
And I'm glad you said that. I really want to get on that about the C-section part because that's one of the questions that I had. Basically, what are your thoughts on C-sections? Because you hear some people. I hear women talk about C-sections like it's going to the store to get candy. I mean, it's very casual. And when you're in a hospital, sometimes the doctors will encourage them very, very casually as well, because a lot of C-sections are not emergency. Some of them are planned. People have been taught that if they had one C-section, then all the rest of their children have to be C-section, and we know that's not true always necessarily. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on C-sections and just how they're encouraged so quickly. I mean, it's just bizarre. Like when I actually started hearing it, so much from people, I'm like, this is major surgery, and I don't think people really grasp that. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I had both of my children were birthed via C-section. My
Okay.
first one, yeah. So my first, with my son, that one, I think the doctor felt sorry for me because I was a first time mom. And what happened, I was a week overdue, and this was before I really understood birth. I was an herbalist. I was just then getting into natural health and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Right.
Um, and so, my son was a week overdue. Well, according to their calculations, because I'm a first time mom, they said he was due on March the 6th, so he ain't here, and it's a week later. So what's going on? So the OB is like, okay, well, we can come in and do a gross sonogram. Okay, so I'm on the table, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so they're like, and I'm miserable. And so the lady, she's like, okay, well, he's measuring, we're estimating 9 pounds. 9 pounds 8 ounces. Well, what I in 2 seconds, and they because they're like, oh, he's 9 pounds plus or minus, a pound. So
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, how I did this math calculation, all I heard was plus one. Oh Lord, this baby can be 10.5 pounds. Oh Lord, that's just a half
And
pound away from 11 pounds.
that
Who
scares
finna birth an
people.
11 pound baby? Not me. Not
Yes,
my uterus. My pelvis is not finna open up. So I
right.
immediately started crying in the exam room. My husband is like, girl, like, like really? And I'm like, who finna push out an 11 pound baby? Hallelujah. Not me. Hallelujah. So
Right.
I just had a complete meltdown with my
Yeah.
son. And
Yeah.
so the OB was just like, and I'm fortunate because I had both my C-sections were at Shands University, and they're one of the most progressive as far as birthing in the United States. They're baby friendly registered hospital,
Okay.
and all they have all those designations. And so, I'm talking. The OB is like, well, why don't you just wait a little bit? And I wish I would have listened. I didn't understand how what gift I had in the OB that was just telling me
So
wait.
your OB was encouraging you to just wait, give yourself a little
Yes,
bit.
yes.
Hmm.
And I was like, no, he's cramped up. My baby is cramped up and he can't breathe. And so she
Yeah.
was just like, no, your levels are all good. Let's just wait. And I was like, no.
So in
So
that
she was like,
situation, you were more so the one that were kind of advocating for a C-section
yes,
for yourself.
yes,
Okay.
because I didn't understand really the birthing process.
Right.
At the
Right.
time, even though Shan's was, progressive, 6 years ago, um, they hadn't gotten the baby designate, baby friendly designation at that time. And so they were still into the traditional mode of birthing
Sure.
and that kind of thing. But my
Sure.
OB was just kind of like, yo, let's just wait. And I was just like, lady, like, no, I got friends. They told me how to come into the emergency room if I felt like I needed to get my baby, out and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so she finally was like, okay, well, if he's not here by Thursday, we can go ahead and have a C-section. And I'm just like, okay. So
Hmm.
that was my son. With my daughter, by that time I understood natural birth. And so I had planned to do a vaginal birth with her.
Okay.
She ended up being breached. My very last prenatal visit, my blood pressure was like 190 over 150. And
Okay. Wow.
so, yeah, so they were like, hey, we're gonna go ahead and send you over to labor and delivery. And so I went and I stayed in triage um for a good 6 hours, and they sent me home because I
What?
told them, yeah,
Sorry.
they sent me home. Yeah, right. Okay, so okay, but listen, this is the thing, right? So I was being a little difficult because I was like, I'm hungry and I want to go home. And they were like, well, we need to first get your blood pressure down. So they managed to get the blood pressure down. She kept flipping. My daughter kept flipping. She
Oh
was
wow.
breathing,
Okay.
kept spinning, all that kind of stuff. So, my blood pressure came down. I was like, okay, so bam, y'all gonna let me go home? And they were like, okay, yeah, sure, you can go home. So I was like, okay. I went home. My phone is blowing up the next morning, like crazy. They're like, hey, we need you to come back because you weren't supposed to go home. And I was
Oh.
like, well, I'm home, so I'm not coming back. It was like crazy. So, but so I told them, I said, well, I'll get there when I can, but we're still doing things because I actually had a nesting period this time. And I said, well,
Right.
no, we're getting my daughter's area, together. So no, I'm not coming back. And they're like, no, you have to come back.
Oh, okay.
Because at this time, I was 35. So when you 35 and pregnant in dog years, you're like 100 years old according
Okay.
to the medical establishment. So I said, okay, well, okay. So I finally get back. and this was the thing about this whole C-section thing. And I've never really talked about this portion, but I have been, I guess, a victim of medical bullying. And so the doctors came in, and she said, once I got there, she says, "You're going into surgery right now." And I said, "Hold up, wait a minute now.
Mm-hmm.
You're not gonna talk to me that way." And she had brought in reinforcement. And so I had to let them know, listen, I understand.
Oh, wow. Okay. She
Yeah,
brought other people, you're saying, to help encourage you to have your
right,
C-section. Okay.
right. And so I did. I said, let me explain something to you. Okay. I'm getting my doctoral degree in natural and holistic health. You're not just gonna come at me like I'm uneducated. And you're not gonna overtalk me. Now, what I will do, I walk up out of here. I'll sign whatever papers you want me to sign.
Yeah, yeah.
But my baby is due on Saturday, and I'll come back to Shan's on Friday evening. It don't make me no never mind, but you're not gonna talk to me like this. And
You know
so,
what?
yeah,
I just want to say this real quick. It's just interesting to hear how different those two experiences were from when you
yeah,
had your son and your daughter. The first one, you were a little nervous, didn't quite know what was happening, and then with your
right,
daughter, you was like, yeah, yeah,
right. So
yeah.
I ended up having a C-section. Um,
Okay,
but I like to tell people it was on my own terms, because
okay,
it had gotten to the point to where they had me on magnesium for 24 hours, and my
okay,
my blood pressure kept going up. And
okay.
so they switched the doctor that they had, that was my attending physician, that would have
Mhm.
been, she wasn't my midwife, my nurse midwife. She was the one of the hospital doctors. I spoke to the chief of maternal health at the hospital, and I said, well, she can't do anything on me. She's not, if I have to have a C-section, it's not gonna be her.
Right,
So
right.
so they did switch attending physicians. And so when I felt like I was talking to I got someone that was talking to me and respectful, then that's when I was able to have effective conversations about
Right,
the decision that we were going to make. And
right,
so, by that time I was like, yo, I'm 30, I'm 35 years old. I wanted to have a VBAC, but at this point, they not the only way they're going to be able to do this is if they induce me, and I'm not going to do that. And
right.
so I did. So in that regards, I did end up having a C-section,
Okay.
because I was on, like I said, I was on magnesium. They had me on magnesium for 24 hours. Blood pressure was steady going up, and
Right, right.
I just knew that if they tried to induce me, that was going to be a disaster.
And that's good. You were able to make that decision on your own, for sure.
Right,
Hmm.
right. But it's about people being
Right.
empowered, And so I look back at that experience. Now I was able to advocate for myself. My husband was there, but
Hmm.
can you imagine if it was somebody there that was bullied into
Oh
just
yeah,
doing whatever they said? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. It
And that's
happens all the time.
important.
Yeah.
So doulas, even though with a C-section, doulas are very, very important. Even if a mom is going to have a C-section, doulas are so important because they need that extra set of advocacy there to help them make those decisions.
Hmm.
You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? So
And
I
that's
have,
and that support through it. Yeah.
yes, yes.
And,
So I
yeah.
had I had to make that decision. Yo, you're not superwoman today. We need to get this baby out. We need to keep you from having a heart attack or a stroke. We need to make sure
Right.
a baby girl comes out straight. So in that regards, I had to make the decision, to do what was best. But
Right.
I will
Right.
tell you, in the state of Florida, listen, 60% of the C-sections that go on in the state of Florida, Black women. They pass C-sections out like Skittles down here. So
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Right. Right. Yeah.
It's
So Brittany,
crazy.
what do you feel about it? I mean, what are your thoughts about C-section? How they just, like you said, pass them out like Skittles, which is true. I mean, it's just I just can't believe it. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, C-section rates are way too high. And like you said, Calvis, they could be in the 60%, even 30%, 20% is just way too high.
Yeah.
C-sections are for emergency cases only and should be used for that.
Right.
And so in a situation where mom is in danger or a baby is in danger, it should not be used for convenience. It should not be used for labor.
Yeah.
I actually will highly recommend those who are low risk to labor at home as long as possible.
Yes.
The environment of the hospital just encourages people to be rushed. The environment of the hospital encourages us to not be mobile, and we know that mobility is very important for keeping a labor going and progressing.
And they starve you.
Right.
They starve you. You be hungry. You be tired. You be having an attitude. You probably be sweating and just you're not comfortable, and then you can't really walk and be mobile how you want to. You know, I should be able to bounce on my ball beside my bed, go to the bathroom, go to the refrigerator, go outside if I want to, walk up and down the street if I want to, go pet my dog if I want to. You know, anything that helps me to get through that labor, I should be able to do. Whereas in the hospital, they already confine you into these small rooms. And then you don't feel comfortable leaving the room because it's people rushing up and down the hallways. Everyone's looking at you weird. Your butt is out. You're coming down. So you don't really want to leave anyway. It confines you in that room, and then everybody's texting you, figuring out what's going on because you're in the hospital, and all you're doing is just sitting in the bed. You're not really making much progress because you're not being mobile. You're not comfortable. You're not in your own space, and typically that can lead to a cesarean because now the doctors and nurses and midwives are starting to count the time. You've been here for 24 hours and you're only 3 centimeters. And then the mom starts thinking, oh man, I'm only 3 centimeters. This is going to take 2 hours.
Yes.
So then all it takes is one suggestion. You know, it could be completely, it doesn't even have to be fact-based. It doesn't have to be medically necessary. All you need is one doubt, one person to come in the room and say, you know what, have you thought about an induction since it's been 24 hours? Have you thought about a C-section since it's been 24 hours? And then that one doubt in that mom's head, now, you know, it has been a while. Is my baby going to be okay? Am I going to be okay?
The stress comes in.
That's when the stress comes in. That's when the second guessing comes in, and mom could have planned everything to the T, and still that one doubt has her rethinking everything. She's completely healthy otherwise. Right. If she would have stayed home, then she would have been able to determine when it was the right time to go to the hospital. When she got to the hospital, things would have already been coasting off. Not her, you know, I don't even like the word stall when they say, oh, your labor stalled. Well, for one, we know that labor comes in waves. So it can be a short wave. It could be a huge wave. We know that it comes in waves. So there's no such thing as really stalling. What it really is high expectations for everyone's birth when we know that they're all different. And so what happens is these C-sections are based on someone else's suggestion. Not because it's not medically necessary. It's, hey, have you thought of it? I think it's a good idea. And like Calvin said earlier, they don't tell you all of the risk and the all of the risk and the postpartum part of it when it comes to having a C-section. They don't tell you anything. They basically, after it's over, then they say, well, you know, put this on, and if this happens, then come back in. But they don't tell you when you get home how holding your baby might be a struggle, how maybe the football hold for breastfeeding would be the best because having your baby on your belly would hurt. They didn't mention when you're breastfeeding and that thing might irritate the scar. I mean, they don't tell you all types of different don't tell you. They just load you with the medication to numb that pain, but don't tell you how to truly. So here you are having a woman who later down in life, a few years from there, is like, oh, I want to have a vaginal delivery, and she don't even know how she was cut. Right. Because they don't even mention it. They don't necessarily mention it. I've had situations where moms were cut early and thought that she was going to have a VBAC until a few weeks leading up into the next one, and she couldn't because they found out, well, she found out that she had a vertical incision, so she couldn't have a VBAC. She never knew that information.
Right.
We don't give enough details. We want to rush into making the decision for a C-section, but don't want to take the time to explain what's really happening. And maybe if we explain what's really, maybe we could choose not to do them if it's not an emergency.
Right. I agree with both of you all. And it's funny. Well, I shouldn't say funny, but more interesting how, I watched a young lady that this is when I first was starting. I was just kind of, observing, and I watched how they push so much for this. They pushed it so much. And we're going to talk about induction too, because I think sometimes the way they have created these ways to induce is what affects and impacts the lack of being able to naturally have a baby. I really believe that. I believe if you do all these, put all these different machines up in her body to try to open this up and tear this and do that, you are messing with the natural flow of things. So once you do that, it will impact your body, when it comes time to naturally have that baby. And I think about, as you said, and this is why I advocate for people to get doulas, because if you have, a doctor, a nurse, and they already team up, because it was interesting because I was with a girl one time, and she happened to be white. So I'm walking past the nurse station, right? They don't know I'm with her. Okay, because they would not assume that we were together. And the doctor and the nurse were out there talking at the station, saying basically they were going to teach, like, you say this, I say that. They literally were having that conversation. Okay, so I already knew that they were coming in to talk to her and try to convince her of these different procedures, right? So they do that. They come in and you have that person, and you may have another nurse come in and say all this stuff. And then if her mom is scared for her because this is her first child and she don't want her baby to die or have any complications while having her first baby, she hears the doctor and the nurse say this stuff, then it's like, well, maybe you should. And then, dad is scared, like, oh, so all these people, as you said, start looking at her. And if she has nobody there that could be an advocate for her and say, or ask some questions, well, what about this? What about that? She will. A lot of times people will, because they don't know. And they feel like the doctor is a doctor for a reason. So he must know something that I don't know, right. So this is why being a doula, or having a doula, I should say, is so important, to have somebody that can advocate for you. So I want to talk about the induction process and some natural ways to induce, because I think sometimes, and I think this goes back to what you were saying, Brittany, about why it's nice to kind of be at home, because you can do a lot more natural things at home, and even like, eating a piece of a carrot, at home, when you get to the hospital, they give you ice chips, so you tired, you can barely breathe sometimes, you all kinds of stuff, and, having the issue. So what are some natural ways to induce labor? So Calvin, you can go ahead.
Okay. So here's the thing. Other than walking in sex, I tell people patience, and that's it. Even with herbal, I just don't believe in any type of interventions. Listen, I know you tired. I was tired. I had C-sections. I know you tired, child. I know it is a struggle to get up out that bed to go pee at 2:00 in the morning. I get it. Oh Lord, do I get it. However, the baby is gonna come when the baby is ready. And the baby is not ready, then guess what? You're an incubator. That's what happens when you get pregnant. You're nourishing this life that's inside. So I don't ever give I don't give advice on induction, naturally inducing anything. Other than just make sure that the perineal is nice and nourished with some primrose oil. Your partner can help you with that to make sure that that's going on. And if you are going to utilize sex as a way to induce your labor, just make sure that you do have an orgasm, because those are the natural enzymes, internal enzymes that you would need to help kickstart your induction. But other than that, patience is just so very virtuous during this time. So
do the hard good.
Yes. So patience and a lot of sex, and maybe some walking.
Right.
But other than taking anything orally, as far as herbal tinctures and all that kind of stuff, I don't ever advise. I don't give any advice on that.
Sure.
But that's me. That's the type of
Oh yeah, no,
you
no.
know that's from my profession. And
Yeah.
with my clients, that's one of the things that they don't like. Oh my God, I know you got something. I sure do. But guess what? I'm not giving it to you.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So, and a lot of that is because of liability.
Oh,
Because
sure.
once you start, saying, "Hey, I'm going to give you this to induce," then that's kind of out of the scope of what a birth worker without medical credentials should be doing.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah. So I just reserve it to walking sex and just waiting.
Yeah, yeah, and that's really interesting that you said that because yes, people do differ on that. Some people do give
Yeah.
some different things, and I guess for me, it's just a matter of, like you said, moving. Keep moving, moving, do. And I think that as Brittany, and you can talk about this too, but I think being at home as long as possible really helps because it cuts
It
down on that
really
stress.
does.
It cuts down on that stress because being in those white rooms and it's cold and it's just uncomfortable, people constantly coming in, checking you and prodding. Oh, can we check again? It's like, no, don't check again. I'm fine.
Right,
So,
right. They feel
so
that things are progressing. So what I would say is definitely staying home because you can control your own environment.
sure.
I just like Calvis, I don't advocate for many like all natural induction. For the most part, it's all just patience, staying moving. I actually suggest those when my clients contact me and they say that they're feeling their first contractions, I tell them to continue like their regular daily activity. You can finish
Right.
laundry, go to the store if you need to. With my third, I was 4 centimeters dilated, and I was at the grocery store. As long as water ain't coming out, we good to go.
Right, right.
I continue in my usual because that movement is going to help baby get into the right position. That movement is going to keep those contractions going. So you really don't need any natural remedies. If I had to choose any, just to go along with that movement, I'm going to be taking on my raspberry leaf tea.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty much all you're gonna get from me is walking around some raspberry leaf tea once the contractions start. If you don't have the ability or the desire to have sex and you're in the hospital setting and you're just trying to get things going because maybe they're on your back about your contractions, you can do nipple stimulation. But other than that, just keep it simple and wait it out.
Okay, so explain that a little bit more because you can't just go right over nipple stimulation.
I'm sorry.
Talk about that a little bit more. No, you know what? You would be surprised, and you'd be surprised how people don't know because there's people listening, so people don't know what that means. So go ahead, because
Nipples.
you talking about
The nipples. Yeah, that's what they say. Like what?
an orgasm, and Brittany, you talk about nipple stimulation. Let's get into it.
Yes.
Talk about that thing.
Sorry about this. I thought it was common knowledge, but yes, you can do nipple stimulation. You just get your fingers and you just twiddle your nipples, and it will contract the uterus. And so it's not going to start labor up. It's not going to dilate your cervix, but what it does is it kind of tricks the body thinking that the baby's on the outside. Nursing, so it has that natural contraction. What I saw that worked is if you just need to strengthen some of your contractions or kind of help trick your body into keeping things going, it works for some. For others, maybe their nipples are just way too tender from all of the hormones that's going on. And so nipple stimulation is not for everyone. But for me, if I felt the contraction, but I just want to see if I can get it a little stronger, then I would do nipple stimulation on my own. And plus, it doesn't feel too bad if you like that kind of stuff.
Hey. Okay, no, we keep it real. I love it. No, I love all of this because you know what? A lot of stuff that I have learned that people just don't know. We in our mind, because you guys have been doing it so long, and people who have done it so long, and it's just like your everyday language. Some people really don't know, and that's why these women get in here and they get bullied, as you said, Calvis, because they don't know their options. So I'm glad we're talking about this. So I want to really talk about, especially for Black women, why we're at, such a higher risk for health complications and issues. What do you guys feel is the reasoning for that? What do you think contributes to that?
I think it's a number of issues. You know, of course, you know, in the Black community, we do suffer from forms of you know, disproportionately higher rates for chronic illnesses like diabetes, high blood pressure, things of that nature. But I want to put that into the context of we suffer from these issues as a result
Right.
of other institutional racism
Yes.
factors, like
Thank you.
you not having access to health care, not
Yes.
having access to economic and educational resources and things
Yes.
like that. So I don't want people to just walk around thinking, oh, we just, you know, Black people just walking around with, you know, high blood pressure because they eat pig feet all day. No, some people would do better if they have the opportunity and the resources and things to correct things. So
Yes.
there's
Thank you
that.
for saying that, because people do
So
preach that a lot, and I don't like that.
right.
So thank you.
So
Mm-hmm.
chronic illnesses, you know, the result of these systemic racial disparities will culminate and will present themselves as higher rates in chronic illnesses, and of course,
Sure.
that's going to affect the quality of pregnancy that a person has. But
Right.
also, I think but also alluding back to the research that the CDC, that latest body of research that they released in 2019, um, racial bias was on their list.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, Black women, they're not in that much pain. Black women have higher pain tolerance. I mean,
Yep.
and listen, this is not just. There was a study. It was either Yale Medical or St. John or Johns Hopkins Medical School. These medical students were surveyed. They
Mm.
literally think, and this was back in I think 2018. They literally thought that Black
Wow.
people had higher pain thresholds.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Now we're not talking about a study that happened in 1920, where
Right.
okay, you know what I'm saying? We're talking about in the age of smartphones, readily accessible
Right.
information that you can research, data, all this kind of stuff, and these are the biases that the medical professional had, you know, medical professionals have. All
That's
Black
so
women are
interesting.
on Medicaid. All Black women are low income. None of them are married. So it doesn't matter. We're just gonna bring them in and bring them out. You know, bring them into the hospital and release them. You know, like it's some kind of factory. You know, or baby
Mm.
meal. You know what I'm saying? So we have this huge, huge issue with bias in the medical industry or medical
Right.
field. That's why I'm not impressed because these dudes in these white coats kneeling. I don't care about that. Listen, you don't need to be concerned about police brutality.
Beyond.
I need y'all to address why Black
Yes.
women are dying at a rate of 3 times higher as white women. That's what I
Yeah.
want y'all to do. Are y'all kneeling for that? Are y'all addressing that?
Focus,
That's what
right?
you need to be focused
Right.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Not police. I mean, thank you,
Right.
because we all are
You have your own
concerned.
problems.
You feel me?
Yes.
But
Exactly.
but this is what I need y'all to focus on. You feel me?
Right.
So medical bias in the medical industry, it
Mm-hmm.
is so it is just prevalent. And that's
Yes.
why, you know, I have certain ideas about birth work and possible credentialing possibilities for birth workers. And I know a lot of, you know, I talk to people and they're like, you know, birth work cannot be medicalized. Well, the reality is birth work has been, you know, the birthing process has been medicalized. And
Yeah.
until we can neutralize it, that we are bringing everyone back who can be low risk births, until we can close that back to where we're having these people birth at home,
Right.
you know, until we can, we're gonna need CNAs. We're gonna need postpartum doulas to have a CNA. That's just a suggestion. You know, these are my ideas, but you know,
Right.
we gonna need more doulas perhaps to get nursing. I mean that because we need to be able to not only fight the system from the outside, but we also need people on the inside that understand what's really going on in these
Mm-hmm.
hospitals. It's very easy for me to critique the hospital setting, um, but I don't know what it's like to be on the floor. And I really think we have to be equipped on all sides. You
Right.
see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Of
Right.
of addressing. We need those people who are
Yeah.
credentialed that can handle that birth work at home.
Right.
Yep.
And to encourage as many people to listen. They're gonna send you home after one day anyway. So why even go to the hospital to have your baby if you're low
Right.
risk? So go
Right.
ahead and have your baby at home.
Mhm.
But for those people who can't have them in the hospital setting, we really do need to be encouraging our black folks to really think about going into nursing, thinking about becoming OBs, thinking about becoming those nurse midwives, because our black women are dying in hospitals. They're not dying at home.
Mm-hmm.
They're dying in the
People
hospital.
have that misconception, though. People have, and that's why we have to talk, and that's why we have to have these kind of conversations, because people do believe that, well, if I'm at home, I'm going to die and I won't have the help, so I have to be in the hospital. And they don't realize that the hospitals are the ones that's killing them sometimes. So don't
They
nobody
dropping your
come.
baby.
I'm not
The
saying it about
hospital,
all the times,
yeah.
but yes.
The hospital dropping your. The hospital, they dropping your baby. Now, who dropping your baby in the pool at home? Nobody. That baby
Right.
is you. That baby get birthed out and the baby is swimming like he on the Olympics. That baby is not gonna get that baby's not gonna get hurt at home.
Yep.
So we need people in the hospital. We do. We
Yeah.
need people in the hospital, in those hospital settings, until we can get that, until we can close that gap.
Yep.
And,
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
there's a big gap. Oh yeah.
There
Brittany, what do you
is.
think in regards to this question as far as us being a higher risk?
Sure, yeah, everything that Calvis just said. but on top of that, I think one of the biggest things is that we have to understand that the hospital, they have a different model of care, which is the medical model. And they see all bodies as being broken that needs a solution. And we know that that's just not the case.
Right.
And you walk into a room and you already see that person is broken, and you have a list of solutions for them that don't fit them.
Right.
We subscribe to this model of care and we don't even know it, because we don't know that there's another option.
Right.
So like Calvin mentioned, we need to separate those who are low risk and who can do out of hospital care and birth, delivery, postpartum. And then for those who do need that extra support and maybe, I wouldn't say they are broken, but those who have medical needs do belong in the hospital. Let's not get that misconstrued. They do need to be in the hospital. And in those situations, the medical model fits them, because they do have a situation that needs fixing or tending to, or special care, or they need medications, but then that doesn't fit everyone. So imagine prescribing a medication to someone that they don't need, and they have all of these different side effects. It doesn't fit the mold. And so I think as women, we just fall victim to the medical model of care that we don't necessarily need. And you see how, like earlier, we talked about how Black women are dying in postpartum. That's where they need the extra support, not during the delivery and the labor. That part's a take. What we need is we need more care for Black women in the postpartum period for those who are low risk.
Right.
Because we also, as Black women, we carry a specific type of trauma that others don't. And so things like police brutality, violence in our neighborhoods, poverty, lack of education, that's a trauma that builds stress within our body that needs to be tended to in a very special way. And so if we're subscribing to this model that doesn't fit us, it doesn't address those issues that we have. And that's the reason why you see Black women dying in postpartum, is because we have overlooked the trauma that they may have had, and no one showed up for it.
Right. Oof. Y'all speaking. Yes. I mean, this all just resonates with me in so many different ways, because I mean, especially, we're just going to say it with what's going on right now in the world today. I mean, this is part of it. Now, especially as a mother, and think about these women. I mean, even with the COVID, and then you got this, they're stressing over, okay, am I going to be able to have my baby in the hospital? Is my doula going to still be able to be there? Is my husband going to be able to be there? Is my, boyfriend or whoever, my mom's still going to be able to be? It's so much stress that goes with it. And then when you add on like you said, the other things just come along with being a Black woman sometimes. It can be hard. And that's where we get, like you said, Calvis, the high blood pressure and, diabetes, because this is all it's all cause and effect. It's not, some people just sit around and eat. We know that. But a lot of times it is a trauma that we've experienced. And it's just heartbreaking, because people do have options and they don't know that they have it. So I really want to talk about too, this is really good conversation. I want to talk about, why wellness is so important for not only mom, but for her support team, if that's her husband, her sister, mama, because you can be in some birthing rooms that when you look at even the people around, it's like, this is toxic. How is she gonna have, a healthy birthing experience right now with all this going on? So not only is she stressed about literally about to, giving life, but also she's stressed about making sure this person is calm or this person is calm or this is going. So, I mean, what do you feel about that, Calvis? I think Brittany might have a little bit of a connection issue. I'm going to wait for her to come back. Oh, there she is.
It's very important. It's very important. And it's one of those things where, I always, whenever possible, I always like to do my, at the very least, the initial consultation with both parties.
Yep.
Just so that we're on the same page.
Yes.
Because what usually happens, and it's so funny, men are becoming more educated, about the birthing experience.
Yeah.
And so, and so I have, I've had husbands and boyfriends who are insisting, yes, she is going to breastfeed. Now, listen, I am all for supporting the mom through breastfeeding, but it's like you have to let them know now. Okay, listen now. Yes, we're both gonna support her in breastfeeding, but you're not allowed to make demands on what she does.
Right.
And so, I've had to have, with a couple of the partners that have come in, I've had to kind of calm dad down, like, yo, I'm so glad you are excited. I'm just excited as you are, homie. But you cannot bring this extra, because sometimes you can feel, the mom, the birth, the mom is like,
yeah.
Because it kind of puts pressure. You know what I'm saying? So for example, we want breastfeeding to be a joyous, calming, bonding situation. Experience with the baby. Those were some of the most beautiful times that I had with my children, was during just rocking in my rocking chair, breastfeeding. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we want. That's what we want. But we don't need homeboy over in the corner like, the book said that you're supposed to breastfeed for 20 minutes. Yo, back up. You feel me? So it's very important that not only, everybody that's going to be on the birthing support system. And I really hope that, and I see Brittany posting about this all the time. You really do have to establish a village or a network or a system, a support system for postpartum. I know black folks, we love, taking the baby to get christened and baptized at the church, and this is a godmom and a god. No, we need people who gonna come with a casserole and who's fine with just dropping the casserole off. I ain't got to see the baby. I ain't got to look at you. Here's the casserole. So it's just, we need to educate all members of the birthing team, to make sure they know what their role is, and to make sure that there are resources for everybody involved, especially dad, because if we think about it, yes, the doulas, postpartum doulas, we do come in to support, but when the postpartum doula is gone, that usually falls on dad. So dad needs bonding. Dad does need bonding time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But dad also has this protection role that he also has to, step in and all that kind of stuff. And Lord have mercy, anything like my husband, I don't know if he had PTSD flashbacks from when he was in the military or whatever, but baby, I was on lockdown. Do you hear me? for them for them 3 months. So they're in this mode of protection. And my husband started
Protection.
over. You feel
Yeah.
me? When we had our 2 children, so he started over. He got it's a span with his with my older bonus kids, and then the 2 we had together. So
Right.
They're like in protection mode this whole time, and it's just like, yo, your life has changed too.
Right. Right.
You might
And
not be.
we have to look at the stress part of it too, because a lot of times when dad or grandma, whoever's around, when they're acting that way, they sometimes are, you have stress, they're afraid, they have so many
Right.
questions, and they try to feel like they have to look tough or have it all together. So they read these books, as you said, and then they start saying, well, don't you have to, because they're scared. They really, and instead of saying,
Yes.
you're scared. And even for me, I know that's one thing that I'll talk to them about. Say, it's okay to say you're scared. You can let's talk about it. Let's talk through it. Let's talk about what your worries are, your concerns. Let's talk about it. So, they can feel free to let some of that out, because I think once that happens, they'll relax a little bit more and just let these kind of flow a little bit more. But when that stress and that fear is there, it shows up in so many different ways that it's almost funny. So it's like, man, go sit down. What are you doing? Why are you go sit down?
That's why postpartum planning is so very, very, very important. And these are things that have to be talked about, because especially if you're coming from a 2-income household,
Yeah.
It might be a situation of the husband can't help you as much as he would like to, because he's having to pick up extra shifts at work.
Right.
So
Right.
how are you all going to deal with the added stress of he's working doubles 3 or 4 times out of the week to fill in that financial gap?
Right.
And there's just so many things that are going on. And of course you can't plan for every situation, but you need to have some type of workable, flexible
Sure. Be
plan.
strategic.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, be strategic, be purposeful, and yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Brittany, what do you think as far as the whole team and why it's so important?
Yeah, very much so. Like Calvin said, plan as much as you possibly can. I had a postpartum doula who would say, the night right before she would come the next morning, she would text me and say, what is it that you left for the previous day that you didn't get a chance to do? She would say, leave the laundry on the couch, leave the pancake mix on the counter, I'll make it for you. And I literally stayed asleep and was able to kind of wake up as I wanted to. And I opened the door, the other 3 kids are already being fed, and she already, I just won't have my life again. For me, and I was like,
the doula? Who doula's the doula extraordinaire?
Listen.
I said, who can doula the doula extraordinaire? I would be so nervous being your doula. Like, am I doing it right, Brittany?
Listen, she did an awesome job, honey. I mean, I would have my teas and my food, and she would make sure that the kids was occupied and they had an activity to do while I could breastfeed the baby. I mean, it was just an amazing thing. And when I didn't have her, I overlapped my support. So the weeks that my mom could come, she came, and then my sister, and then cousins and things like that. I layered that support. I always had somebody there. And then when he returned back to work, he did maybe less hours, or, maybe for lunch, he was able to check in, or maybe I had my virtual support team who was able to check in with me if I needed something. And then midwives are calling and texting and checking in. So it's really important. Sometimes it's just checking in with a mom for her to feel, cared for, and hey, people, appreciate me and love me, and they're not just worried about the baby or babies and how they're doing, but how am I doing? Also, just reminding moms to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
They're staring at the baby and they forget to eat. So I'll just, text my client. I'll say, guess what time it is? And they'll say, what? I'm like, time to eat.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Make fun out of it. And I try to, even if I can't be there in the physical, I stay connected with my clients for 6 months, even up to a year. And they can ask me, mothering questions, anything that they can, come up with, or just, hey, Brittany, I want to talk. I make myself available to them. So it's super important.
Okay, okay, awesome. I want to kind of talk real quick. I just want to ask you guys for women that are looking into becoming a doula, right? Thinking that this is something that they want to do or they're just starting. What are some type of packages that you guys put together? You don't have to, tell everything that you give, but just what do you think some important things are for, some doulas to give out to their clients, in regards to, and this could be prior to birth or even postpartum care. What do you think are some things that you would encourage people to kind of give out to help women?
Um, well, from my perspective, postpartum postpartum wise, I always try to give out a baby oil, herbal. It's a herbal blend, and I encourage anybody that goes into birth work. You need some type of herbal training, even if it's really basic.
Sure.
Um, just because I mean, it's just you should just
That's good you
know
pointed that
about
out.
herbs.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, um, I always at the minimum I always make a baby oil, a baby cleansing oil, and that's just because babies really don't need a bath, their first month of being, earthside.
Right.
I know that was again, when I had my son, I was, when they gonna wash my baby? When they gonna wash him? When they gonna wash him? And then when I had my daughter, by the time I had my daughter, I'm like, no, don't bathe her. I'll bathe her when she gets home. And then she didn't get a bath until she was a month old. And so at minimum, I do that as far as baby care goes. But
Okay.
because my practice is focused more on postpartum, um, those teas that tea, the postpartum tea, for them to drink, internally, and then that ring of fire tea, after they get done pushing, baby. Listen, now I never experienced it because, like I said, I had two C-sections, but listen, I know that the vagina sometimes is on fire, so you need a nice rinse, as your pee, not a douche. But
Right.
that best friend bottle that they give you in that hospital, for you, to squeeze as you pee in
Yes,
that first time.
yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I always encourage doulas. It's just basic stuff that as a doula you should be able to do. So I'm gonna give a freebie, um, quick blend. Get some blackberry tea leaves and some chamomile tea, brew that, and always have that on hand for your women who do vaginal birth. Um, as far as if you are going to be supporting a woman with that's going to be having a C-section, always have a rosemary and calendula oil tincture, or oil-based extract, ready to go at all times, and that's for the C-section incision. So those are like the basic things that I always give, and then
Sure.
because my practice is heavily based on nutrition during the postpartum, I always have some type of bone in my freezer ready to go with my, with my cast iron Dutch oven. I have a specific Dutch oven that I have for postpartum. I bless that under the full moon, under both a new moon and a full moon, with my Kambala Jasper stone for birth work, because I believe in that the work that we do is indeed ancestral. So I have a special pot that I dedicate and intend every new moon, just for my stews. And so I always have some type of bones ready to go,
Hmm.
to make a bone curry broth. I always keep curry on hand,
Mm-hmm.
and those are just for warming, those warming essentials for that uterus, during postpartum, because that uterus needs to be nourished.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, you know what I'm saying? So those are things that I always keep on hand. But like I said, those basic things like a cleansing oil, I think that doulas should at the very least you should be able to, even if you don't want to mess with old fashioned Lysol making, there are
Hmm.
some really good detergent free, um, melt and pour bases on the melt and pour soap bases on the market. And so at any time, those basic hygiene things, I
Hmm.
think all doulas, and this is just me, I just think all doulas need to be in a place, especially black doulas, just because. of ancestry, birth workers were herbalists. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. No, that's true.
So those, you should be versed in herbalism.
Yeah.
I truly believe that, just so that you can make those basic items. I mean, some people get into the trinkets and the picture frames and all this kind of stuff, and then you have me and Brittany, who's coming like with raspberry leaf tea baskets and all this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't got no keepsake. I don't have a keepsake pen and journal for you, but we got herbs. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think we need to. So we really do need to like kind of leave the fluff gifts for family members. But if you're a doula, you really need to be able to give your client some type of herbal support.
Okay.
Especially nutritional support. Nutritional support.
Okay. Brittany, what do you feel in regards to what kind of things do you think?
Yeah, I agree. She pretty much touched on the postpartum. Since I primarily do labor and birth support, I would say I typically do like a prenatal tea in the beginning for them to drink throughout. And then I also will refer them to meal plans based on their eating habits, how to get, iron rich foods in their diet, protein rich foods, making sure that they're spreading all of their good fats across the day.
Sure.
But yeah, so I do a lot of like nutritional work and during pregnancy just to make sure everything is flowing well, and then also have that prenatal tea as a supplement so that they can get all of those extra vitamins in too. So that's pretty much what I do.
Okay, so I have one last question. I know we went over time, but this is good conversation. We can do what we want to do. I want to ask you guys this because a lot of people have this debate in regards to if a doula should be paid or not, right? A lot of times people will say,
It's a debate?
Wait a minute.
Okay. Oh, go ahead. This your show. Go ahead, child. I'm sorry.
So I have seen the debate where people feel like, this is, how do I want to say it? Like this is your ministry and you should be giving of yourself. And it can still be, and I know you believe, especially because that this is your ministry, but people use that to equate with freely giving of yourself, and they don't realize what goes into all of this. I mean, it's a lot, and not only your energy, I mean, but just finances and time, and when you have your own children, take away from that. So anyway, what do you guys feel about that? Because
I did not know. I mean, not to be funny or nothing like this, but that must be a perspective of white women, because black doulas want to get paid.
Let me tell you, I have, and Brittany, I'm gonna let you say this. I know you had your hand up. No, I have seen.
I'm gonna go first, because listen, she about to go in.
Yeah, look, we're gonna let Brittany go first because Calvin's your face on.
Let's let her gather her words.
I have seen many of different type of women that believe that you should just do it, that we should just give of ourselves because, hey, that's what people say. So I'll just leave it there. What do you think, Brittany? Go ahead. I'll let you go first because Calvin's.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to.
I think we have current day expectations with the pockets of tradition, and in a traditional way, it would be a give and take. It doesn't always have to be monetary. It's a relationship in which, if we were to give this type of support, it was because we were getting something in return, and it couldn't have been like a bartering.
You mean back in the day?
Yeah, so traditionally, yeah. So back in the day, it may not have been money, but maybe I am the doula for this particular area, and they take care of me. They put food on my table. They help me with my children.
Or so they're a farmer, or anything like that. Yes,
exactly. They provide me with so many months of vegetables and fruits and grains and things for. That's still payment. It's just in a different way. And And so what we can expect is, because we're no longer in that traditional lifestyle, we can't expect doulas to work for nothing or for free, simply because money is going to provide us those things that I just listed out, and so you have to pay her or him. I just feel like if we had brought it all the way back to how it was in tradition, then maybe I would technically work for something else, a bartering system. If we were living in a situation where money didn't necessarily rule everything, and we could be a small community where you have, a few midwives, traditional midwives, you had your doulas or your mother helpers, you had your farmers, you had if we had people in place like that in the Black community, sure, because that's my job, but I'm still doing something in return. But now, because you got bills to be paid, and we spread all the way out. So I'm here, and the next farm is all the way over here, and there's no correlation between me and the farmer. There's no correlation between me and the midwife or the people who produces the grains, because we're too spread out to benefit each other anymore. So the only thing you really can offer me is either bartering something that I need or money so that I can get what I need.
Right. Nope. I agree. Calvis, go ahead and.
So listen, I didn't. First of all, I didn't know it was a debate.
Oh yes.
But here, this I will say this, and I do want to, I do want to say that this is really the first platform that I've been able to express about compensation. I do think, though, most certainly do I think doulas should be paid. I really do. Here lies an issue, though. Whether it's non-medical support or medical support, we know that pay for services within our industry, within the medical industry, it's run by insurance companies. And so here we have a situation where our profession is still not, it's growing and it's opening. I do want to say that, because for instance, I'm in the state of Florida. And so I can get credentialed by the state of Florida to be a Medicaid provider. Okay. So we do have some states that are able to compensate people for low income. And a lot of insurance companies are at least reimbursing clients for what they pay out of pocket. So, so we have that. But doulas most certainly should be paid for their time, and for their expertise. Like Brittany said, back in the day, the village took care of those of the herbalists in the community, the root doctors, the conjure people, those elders. They were esteemed. What's happened is, though, once things are whitewashed, once the birth working community was whitewashed, because now we're formalizing midwifery and we're stamping out traditional midwives, and we have these OBGYNs, and now the OBGYNs have nurses as their assistants, not necessarily CNAs, but the RNs that are this is who is assisting them. It becomes a situation of credentialing. And so now what has happened is the credentialing bodies are not accessible to Black people who want to be birth workers. I don't care what you say. I don't care who you appoint to your board of directors. I don't care who your CEO is. These mainstream doula credentialing bodies are not accessible to Black people, and they are not. They're not culturally relevant. But these are the credentialing bodies that these insurance companies are saying, hey, sure, we'll pay for doula services. You feel me? But yes, we should get paid.
I think she had a little bit of a freeze there.
Yep. It was me.
It happens, sometimes the weather, anything can affect that. Let me let her know to go ahead and just maybe she may have to go off and come back on. Like I said, I know you guys got little ones, and we went over, and I really would love to continue this conversation at another time, because it's so much to cover. it's so much to cover, and it's so much to say. And and I really want to talk about just one last thing in regards to what we're talking this subject right here. I think that for some people too, I wanted to add, when you first come into it, you can't charge what somebody, because Calvin said about expertise. You have that experience, that's one thing, but when you first coming on, trying to charge somebody an arm and a leg for something that you still learning yourself, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. But I do believe that people should be compensated, because it's a lot of work, and people don't understand, like I said, just the energy work that goes into it. I mean, you are literally giving of yourself when you're with that mother, especially like you said, you work with the more so the labor part and the birthing part. I mean, that's a lot, that emotional toll that goes onto your body, and you walking away from your children, your family. It takes a lot. So I hope Calvis is able to come back on real quick. But I wanted to, is there anything else that you wanted to say before we close here?
No, not really, but I really enjoyed it, and we can continue this conversation another day. I'm sure there's more topics. We can even talk about how COVID and some of the recent events have impacted birth work and us, and how our businesses have changed, our practices have changed, and what that looks like. It will be interesting to see that in the next coming months, to see if things start to open up for us. So I'm super excited. I'm here for it.
Yeah, because you were doing some over the phone. I mean, because you do that too, over the phone type of coaching as well. I am curious to see how that's going to look, because especially if you're the family is afraid for somebody to come around due to COVID, how it looks, and how for the whole industry. I mean, the whole industry is changing, of course, because of this. It has definitely impacted everything. Oh, there's Miss Calvis. Let me let her back on. Hey.
I'm back.
Okay, yeah. I was just saying, I know that we went over, but
Okay.
and Brittany was just saying too that we would, because I was saying I would like for us to kind of come back to this and talk some more about it.
Okay.
And Calvis, I think I'm gonna mute you real quick, because I think there's a little bit of a feedback. Give me 1 second. And, just to be able to kind of come back to this conversation, because Brittany was just saying that with COVID, it has changed a lot of things as well, with birth workers and how that looks. So, I mean, if y'all got time to talk about it real quick, we can. It's up to y'all, because I'm up all night, but I know Brittany, I don't know if they're up or not, but
my kids are fine, but I honestly think we should gear them up and do another one.
Okay, I'm down. You down with that, Calvin?
Yes.
I do think it's people who are specifically interested in this topic that they need their own segment.
Okay. Well, I agree with that, and I'm down with that. What I'm going to do is I will get in touch with you guys in regards to that, and we can definitely set that back up, because I think that is important, because it does look different right now, and people are afraid. Women are, mothers are afraid. Yep. Okay, cool. Well, I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to come here. This is so fun. I mean, I love sitting around and just talking and getting to know each other, and, that vibe work, and just putting out that good energy. That's good energy. And I appreciate what you guys do. You guys give so much knowledge, so much of your time, so much of your energy, so much of your heart. And I appreciate what other people do. And I just want to encourage you guys to keep doing it. I mean, it's so vital. It's so crucial. It's so important, especially within our communities. And we need that. And then sometimes women don't know it, but they need it. So I'm glad that you are available. So,
how far are you from Orlando?
I am 1 hour north.
Oh,
girl,
I'm going to see you then.
Okay.
Yeah,
meet me halfway.
No, listen, I'm from a small town. We travel to Orlando. That's when you're real proper. The older people, when they're real proper, Orlando. We gotta go down to Orlando. So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
halfway would be like Claremont.
Okay.
Halfway
I'll
to
be there
being
in
like,
September.
okay, cool. Okay, good.
Awesome. Yeah, again, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it for you
You're
guys coming
welcome.
on and taking the time. And we will get together and we will revisit this because I think you're right, Brittany. It's something that needs its own attention and we need to talk about it. So, all right, ladies, I'm going to let you guys go. I appreciate you guys so much.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Have a good night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. Well, I know we went a little bit over, but it was such a great conversation. I had so much fun. Those ladies both are a wealth of knowledge and they have so much to give and they give so much of themselves. So I really appreciate them taking the time to come here with us today. So again, thank you so much. And we are going to revisit this conversation in regards to COVID-19 and how it has impacted the birth working industry, the birth working field, the birth working ministry. So you guys have a great evening and I appreciate you so much. Bye-bye.